Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Steve Breach coming to you here tonight. I was able to watch WWE 365, the Kevin Owens story. This is a new documentary series that is featured on the WWE Network. This was first aired on the WWE Network the night of Survivor Series 2017. And tonight I had the first chance to check this out. I will honestly tell you that I went into this show with some doubts of wondering what it was going to be, but when it came out of it, I am really excited to see what WWE will offer in the upcoming future on these WWE 365s. I know that WWE already has a documentary series out there, WWE 24, which to me should sort of be featured on what we've seen in a lot of the WWE DVD documentaries that have been put out on DVDs and Blu-rays. Like the Batista one where he made his return. I think those would be really cool to have as sort of like a day in the life of a superstar, sort of showing 24 hours in a day, and somebody making a return at a major pay-per-view, whether if that's Sting showing up at Survivor Series, whether if that's Batista showing up for Monday Night Raw. I believe that was in Denver. The Dudley Boys returning the night after SummerSlam. But they've sort of used the 24 series to sort of show like what Seth Rollins as well as Finn Balor went through to come back from their returns from injury. We've seen, the weekend of WrestleMania 31 by Roman Reigns. And then, of course, they've done, sort of the whole weekend as a whole for WWE. WrestleMania weekend. I think they've done that for the past 2 or 3 years now. To me, 365 is a really cool idea. I wonder if there's going to be a time when, they're filming somebody and doing a documentary series on somebody and somebody gets released and just basically all that footage gets thrown into the can. It might be the best way to say it. But in this one, Kevin Owens was a really good person to feature on the first episode. I know that he did just have a documentary come out on his career leading up into WWE that came out this year. And now to have this documentary series focus on the last year, it was a big one. Kevin Owens became WWE champion. He had a match against Goldberg, had a pretty high featured match at WrestleMania. And in his words, he had a lot of highs, and then he also had a lot of lows during this time. This is going to be a fun one to talk about because of everything that Owens went through. And being a fan of his, you really did see the highs and lows that came along with it. The documentary series starts at SummerSlam 2016, where Kevin Owens was featured in a tag team match. Him and Chris Jericho going up against Enzo and Kaz. Kevin Owens was in one of the contender matches to be the number one contender to fight for the new Universal Championship against Seth Rollins. Of course, that was won by Finn Balor. And I think Owens just sort of got one of those matches at SummerSlam where you're just lucky to have a match at SummerSlam, where you are a guy high up on the card. They want to admit that you're one of the major contenders that put them on the map. But his match with Chris Jericho, which I think was the opener, was really nothing special to open up SummerSlam. He says that in his own words, he was glad to be working with Jericho, but it was not the place that he wanted to be on the card. Within the last year, he had debuted in WWE against John Cena. He had won the Intercontinental Championship, and he thought he was going to have a major singles match on the show, and he's in this tag match, and he's not even a real tag team. From there, in the main event, Finn Balor, of course, would win the Universal Championship, but everybody knew that something was wrong. And I believe the next night on Monday Night Raw is where Balor relinquished the championship, and we had matches to set up a fatal four-way. At the end of August, we had that fatal four-way come down, which I think was Owens, Big Cass, Rollins, and Reigns in the match. And we still don't know the answer why Triple H came back and basically, hurt Seth Rollins other than to set up a WrestleMania 33 match. I had to think about that one for a minute there. But, it was sort of said that Kevin Owens was a new Triple H guy, even though there was no authority, there was no, real putting it out there. Just Triple H picked this guy to beat Rollins, win the championship, and go on from there. I think that, honestly, I think a lot of people looked at Kevin Owens' run with the Universal Championship a lot like Daniel Bryan's run after he won the title after cashing in against Big Show at TLC, where he'll lose it the next show. He'll lose it the next show. He'll lose it the next show. I was honestly really surprised. Jericho went on a run that lasted from SummerSlam all the way until Fastlane 2017. One of the biggest matches of that run was a match against Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. And although they did really focus in on the best friends gimmick of Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens, and Jericho always having his back, and Jericho having the list, and them being best friends, they never really talked about the Roman Reigns match, and that happened at the Alamo Dome with the shark cage. Jericho was up atop, and Owens found a way to escape from there. After that match is when basically they started laying the groundwork to get to WrestleMania 33, and I think that match was always supposed to be Jericho against Kevin Owens, but I think that at that point the plan was for it to be for the WWE Universal Championship. And out of the blue, Fastlane 2017, we had a match set together. Bill Goldberg, not only had he come back and beat Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series, he had competed in the Royal Rumble, and I think that he was so over like Rover, to steal words from Conrad Thompson. WWE chose to put the belt on him, being the champion going into WrestleMania, making that match against Brock Lesnar mean more than it already did. And Owens lost the championship that night. Owens said that he never was a Bill Goldberg fan. He was always a WWE fan. He always sort of didn't hate WCW guys, but never really rooted for them to win. But never thought, if you would have ever told him that he would be fighting Bill Goldberg and losing the Universal Championship, he ever thought that he would be able to be in a spot like that. The whole Festival of Friendship, as well as the Best Friends with Chris Jericho, sets up a match against WrestleMania 33, and this is where Owens' year started to sort of crumble, would be the best way. They go out, they have a match. It's not the opener. I think that Shane versus AJ opened the show, and then Jericho and Owens came out after, if I remember right. And it just seemed like it was a really long, drawn-out match with not a lot in it. Owens goes to the back after winning the United States Championship, and he asked Vince on camera, "Is this the match that you were looking for?" And Vince blatantly looks at him and just says no. And Owens is stunned. You don't get to see his face. You only see him from behind. But you can tell that this completely punched him in the nuts and took all the air out of his lungs. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know where to go. He went back and he watched the show. You can see that he was consoled by John Cena. And just really couldn't figure out how he would screw this up. From there is when Owens started his run with the United States Championship, where he, had some, he was drafted to SmackDown, and that's when he started having the feud against AJ Styles, where basically they traded the championships back a few times. Owens and AJ had a match, I believe it was at Battleground, and if you can remember the end of it, it was supposed to be one of those sort of like tricky endings where they rolled each other up and reversed it around, and no one really got the finish. And it was sort of looked at as a bad match with a screwy ending, and nobody really understood what had happened or what had went down. That sort of, got them back together, where AJ and Owens, who were looked at as two of the best wrestlers in WWE, had to find a way to fix this. And basically at SummerSlam 2017, they had another match. This time they would use Shane McMahon as the special guest referee, and they blew the house down. Owens, shoot, I honestly can't remember who won at SummerSlam. I think that Owens walked out with the title, and he gets to the back, and at first he didn't really know what to think of the match, but Vince tells him that they knocked it out of the park and it was a great match, and he just was really confused about how this match was better than the WrestleMania match against Jericho. And we sort of see an ending to the documentary where he's just confused and doesn't know what to do, and then all of a sudden you see him come back to the camera crew 30 minutes later holding his iPhone and showing a text message from Stone Cold Steve Austin saying that he loved the match and had the thumbs up emoji to go with it. And he just said that basically, this is Kevin Owens, 365. I'm confused. He doesn't know what to do, but we complete 1 year in Kevin Owens' career. I really like this show. I really want to see what they do with this. I can see a lot of guys that maybe start at the mid-card and work their way back up to the top, or work their way to the top and they've never been there before. These could be a lot of really fun rides in people's careers, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of them. But Kevin Owens gets a thumbs up from me.